I know, being first out is tough. So how are you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling absolutely amped just to have been a part of the entire experience. I think I made some really, really good connections, for better, for less. For what it was. I think maybe trying to make such buddy buddy friendships with people that early on, and instead of talking strategy, resulted in me being here, first one out of the house. But ultimately, I'm very grateful, and it's just who I am. I wouldn't change a thing about my game. And so, yeah, I'm really excited for having been a part of it all.
So what do you think ultimately sent you home over Alyssa?
I think the workings of an early alliance already forming were just already in motion, and it was a mix of that and the result of a series of unfortunate events that led early targets of Frenchie into safety, and the sights just zooming in more and more on the last few bucks in the field, and me being the biggest target left.
Yeah. So the vote was 11-2. What was your reaction to that? Do you know who voted for you to stay?
I have no idea who voted for me to stay. I guess I have a couple of big homies still gunning for me after all. I thought it was going to be unanimous for me to leave, so I was actually surprised to hear two people put up, the risk of being targeted. I mean, that's kind of an easy thing to go after and to target someone for. So good on them. I don't know if it's for strategy or for their relationship with me, but I'm I'm grateful for the two votes of confidence.
And so Tiffany and Derek F voted for you to stay. So I guess what's your reaction to that?
Derek F did, not Derek X.
Hmm.
That's a weird one. I mean, Tiffany makes sense. She kind of told me, if anything, if it was unanimous, she would kind of want to toss one out there just to maybe target Derek X as having done so later on in the game. So that's just kind of a card up her sleeve that she would utilize. And I was like, good on you. Do your thing, ma. And Derek F is a total wild card. I didn't even have like a rock solid, conversation or one-on-one with him, because I felt he was completely sold into the early alliance that was forming, the Slaughterhouse Gang. And yes, that's a weird one. Maybe he had the same idea as Tiffany, I think is what came down to it, more so than wanting to save me, just wanted to infuse some chaos into the house.
Yeah, that might have been a rogue vote.
I think you're, yeah, right in that assumption that it was kind of just a rogue vote.
Are you surprised to hear that Kailyn and Claire, who are on your team, they voted to evict you?
Nope, because they were doing what was good for their game, and we had a discussion beforehand that said the ball was in my court as much as it could be in terms of having conversations with other people and coming back to them and letting them know if I had swayed, four other votes for them to hop on board and to keep me, and that didn't really happen. I had no confirmation from another four that I'd be staying. So I, of course, said to do what's best for your game, and they did. They upheld the objectives of the current head of household and kept targets off their backs.
All right, so tell me a little bit about, I mean, Julie asked you, but tell me a little bit about blowing up Frenchie's game a little bit. What did you say? Who did you say it to?
Yeah, so my objective in doing that kind of right before the live show was in no way to sway votes, in my direction. The entire purpose was kind of just to kind of inject some longevity, another card into the sleeves of some of my confidants in the game. So I only told a select few people. I think it was Derek X, just because I'd say we were like the showmans that never was. So I was going to tell him, anything I could to help him out. I think I told Brent kind of the same reason. I was falling in love with his muscles and his pretty eyes and his Joyzy accent. And then my own team, so Kailyn, Tiffany, and Claire. Just being that I have a desire to see longevity in their game over the game of anyone else not on my team. So I all told them the same thing, just that Frenchie made a promise to me from day one, and then upheld and reiterated that promise throughout the entirety of the week. Even when I gave him multiple outs to be like, dude, that was kind of a bold promise to make. Are you sure? And he very much affirmed, with a stern handshake and a mark on his word as a man that I would not be going home, and that I had safety with him. And that just ended up being, total, complete and utter garbage. And so I just wanted to make people aware of that, that he's a liar, and he kind of marks himself as this man of transparency and kept promises, and that's just total shiza. So I just wanted them to know, not to even tell people in that moment to blow up his game in front of everyone, but for them to have that card up their sleeve to use when needed, and to keep to themselves when not.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely seemed to make a lot of promises. What did you think of his HOH as a whole? How we
I
handled
think it I think it was an absolute storm. Just a smorgasbord of promises made for the most random of reasons. I mean, at one point he told me, and I came to find out this was like a crock of BS too. He talked to Claire at some point, and she was just like, "Am I safe?" And he was like, he made a promise, or this is what he told me, like verbatim. I made a promise to her on my children that she would not be going home. And I was like, what the hell? Like, why would you make that kind of promise? And he was like, I don't know, man, I just made it. And then I go and talk to Claire, and she's like, dude, he never said that. And so it's just things like that. I was like, dude, first of all, it's weird to lying about like your kids, like promises about your kids. But that's neither here nor there. So it's just things like that, that it just ended up being royal BS.
Yeah, what did you think about Derek X when he used the veto?
I mean, this is a game of worrying about yourself, more so than personal relationships and kicking it with the homies. So I mean, it makes total sense to me. He would have came off as a total liar to Kailyn after having already come off as a liar to Frenchie about things. He was really trying to save face and do what's best for his game, despite the fact that resulted in his showman's partner being being tossed up on the block. So it sucked for me, but it made sense for him, and I couldn't argue, against his own game for himself. So yeah.
Who was the person, I guess, you trusted the most in the house? Like, who was your closest ally?
It's funny. I would say I trusted Derek X the most, but he I mean, just absolutely toileted my game on multiple occurrences, just because the dude has a beautifully loud, wide open mouth, and he simply can't keep information in. He knows that. I told him that, directly before leaving. I was like, dude, you got to keep the trap shut. Flies are going to get in there. And it just, it happened where I would tell him information. He would tell me information that he knew, and I found it, to be true and accurate. And I found him on a personal level to be wanting to assist me. But, goes to show again, personal relationships don't really save the game. And it's all about strategy. And when it comes to your closest confidant, just royally torching your strategy by telling everyone and their mama things that he shouldn't, it means nothing.
So what is your reaction to Kailyn winning HOH?
I am mega excited. Big Kai guy took the dub for the Queens. Royally blows that I couldn't be a part of the Queens' safety this week. Of course, that's how the cookie crumbles, right? I would not have guessed or expected the Queens to win. I've just seen Kai do a couple of comps that he seemed to just absolutely have his lunch eaten in. He didn't seem to be a very big competitor. I don't know what the competition was, but he took the dub, and that's fantastic.
Who do you think he should target?
I think so. There's two questions here. Who I think he should. Well, it's the same answer, so I'll give it to. So I think he should target, and I think he is going to target Christian for the sole purpose of upholding Frenchie's objectives in the house. Again, I think Frenchie has a huge sway in the house vote, and I think Christian is a big competitor. He's like a more handsome version of me. He's like another a saucy surfer guy walking around, and those are like easy pickings for some reason in the beginning. So yeah, I think Christian might be bye-bye.
Do you think, though, Kailyn has a case to say, listen, Frenchie put me up, so maybe I can just put him up?
I think he has a case, absolutely. I mean, I would, if I were still there, I would totally have a case, but neither of us would have done so, at least this early in the game. So I don't think he will, for the sole purpose of keeping a strong ally with sway in the house on his side at this point. I think it's too early to make, or he will think it's too early to make a huge game move that it would take. And I think it would take essentially a total flip in the house to have Frenchie's ass headed back to his farm.
Who do you think at this point, who are you most impressed by? Who do you think has what it takes to possibly win at the end?
I will give, Frenchie, despite all of the dishonesty, the lack of transparency, he has upkept those for the most part really well. I think the only person that has gotten royally boned from his dishonesty at this point was your boy, who has no say anymore in the house, and so good on him for kind of eliminating that. And I think there's not a lot left at this point to target him, at least right now. So I think Frenchie will go really far. I think, however, I think I will take the $750,000 home. I mean, he like massages everyone in the house. That's a testament to how close he is with everyone. Everyone's like, "Ooh, yeah, Mr. Gleaming White Teeth, touch my shoulders," And he's a beautiful person, a beautiful personality. He was raised around sisters. He knows how to have an ear with all of the women in the house. I think that's huge, because when there are like preschool antics in there where girls usually go with girls and guys usually goes with guys, I actually think Kailyn would definitely have both sides there, and that's a unique position that he and only he is in. So yeah, I see him going to the very end.
My last question is, if Big Brother were to ever call again, are you interested in ever playing again?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I'm most grateful for in this experience is what it taught me about myself, in that there's not as much savagery in my bones as I thought. I think I love a little too deeply and a little too quickly. I fell for some big homies in the house really early, and I think I held our personal relationships above my own strategy, and I had the poorly calculated mindset to assume that they held our personal relationship over their own strategy as well. And it just comes back to me wanting to be besties with everyone in the world, and Big Brother not operating like that. So I would come back, but I'd have to slap myself around in the mirror a few times and tell myself to put on my mean mug to go back. I think it would take some serious change in my personality and in me as a person to be successful in the game if I came back.